Job was the name of a man who lived in the country of Uz. This man was honest and pure. He avoided wickedness and feared God. He was the owner of 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a great number of servants. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Among all the Eastern peoples, he was the greatest guy. On their birthdays, his sons used to host feasts in their homes and invite their 3 sisters to join them for food and wine. Job would arrange for them to be purified when a period of feasting had ended. He would present a burned offering in the wee hours of the morning for every one of them, believing,
"Maybe my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts."
this was Job's usual practice. When the angels arrived one day to introduce themselves to the Lord, Satan accompanied them. Satan was asked,
"Where have you come from?"
by the Lord,
"From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it,"
was Satan's response to the Lord. The Lord then addressed Satan, saying,
"Have you thought about my servant Job? Nobody else in the planet is like him. He is a man of integrity and innocence who avoids evil and fears God."
Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not surrounded him, his family, and everything he owns with a hedge? His livestock and herds have dispersed throughout the country because you have blessed the labor of his hands.
Satan answered. Satan challenges God that if given the approval to inflict suffering, Job will change and curse God. To put this audacious assertion to the test, God permits Satan to afflict Job, but he intervenes to prevent Satan from killing Job.
But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face.
Satan was told by the Lord,
"Very well then. Everything he has is in your power. But on the man himself do not lay a finger."
After that, Satan left the Lord's presence to inflict damage on Job's life. In one day, Job receives 4 reports, each informing him that thieving invaders or natural disasters had killed his sheep, servants, and 10 children.
The Sabaeans attacked and stole the donkeys and oxen that were grazing nearby while the oxen were plowing. I'm the only one who survived to tell you that they put the slaves to death.
The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you.
The Chaldeans have formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them.
Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. The only person who survived to tell you is me. It collapsed on them, and they are dead.
Job is heartbroken. He shaves his head and shreds his clothes in despair, but in his prayers, he still gives thanks to God and does not renounce him. Job then declared,
"I came from my mother's womb naked, and I shall go out naked. The Lord has both given and taken away. May the Lord's name be exalted."
All in all, Job did not sin by accusing God of transgression. When Satan returns to heaven, God gives him another chance to put Job to the test. Job has terrible rashes on his skin that are horribly itchy and hideous looking. Job's wife tries to get him to reject God, give up and die this time, but he fights back and strives to endure his agony. There is a deft blending of 2 plots, an earthy and celestial one. Just as there is battle on earth right after a struggle in heaven as described in the book of Revelation, the events on earth are a result of something that has already happened in heaven. 3 friends of Job's came to comfort him, Bildad, Eliphaz, and Zophar. They sat with him in silence for 7 days, honoring his sadness. On the 7th day, Job begins a conversation in which the 4 men offer poetic explanations of his issues. Job curses his birthday, drawing a comparison between light and dark and life and death. He feels that life only makes his suffering worse and wishes he had never been born, and that darkness had shrouded his birth. Job, who had previously comforted others, now acknowledges that he was unaware of their pain. Eliphaz comes to the conclusion that Job must be suffering because of whatever sin he has committed, and advises Job to ask for God's forgiveness. Bildad and Zophar contend that Job ought to try to exhibit more innocent behavior, even though they both believe that Job must have committed evil deeds in order to advance God's justice. Bildad believes that Job's offspring intentionally caused their own demise. Even worse, Zophar suggests that Job has suffered far more suffering than he has from whatever error he made. Each of these comments causes Job to respond angrily, to the point where he labels his supporters worthless physicians who paint their help with lies.
My ears have heard and understood it. What you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you. But I desire to speak to the Almighty and to argue my case with God. You, however, smear me with lies. You are worthless physicians, all of you.
He questions why God judges people according to their deeds, when God may simply change or forgive their deeds. Job is baffled by the idea that a human could ever entirely satisfy God's justice, since God operates in unfathomable ways that are incomprehensible to us. Moreover, words alone cannot persuade God in any way by people. Job acknowledges that he doesn't even know himself well enough to adequately defend his position before God, yet God is not deceived. Job longs for a mediator to stand between him and God so he won't be sent to the underworld, or Sheol. Job thinks there is a redeemer or witness in heaven who will confirm his sincerity.
I am confident that my Savior is alive and will ultimately appear on earth. My advocate is on high, and my witness is in heaven even now.
When Job experiences too much sorrow, he becomes resentful, nervous, and afraid. He laments the unfairness of God allowing wicked individuals to prosper at the expense of him and countless other decent people. Job can't physically find God, yet he wants to confront him and protest. Though he believes wisdom is unattainable for humans, he makes the decision to seek it by abstaining from evil and having fear of God. God intervenes at some point. After that, God engages Job in 2 rounds of divine conversation. First round, Job prayed to God 36 times while giving his talks. His wish has now come true. The 2 occasions that God communicates to Job take place during a tempest. God speaks to him in such a humorous way. God reminds Job that he is the one who created everything. As he goes about his incredible task of creating and maintaining the world, he asks Job whether he could do the same. In closing, he questions Job's capacity to pass judgment, saying to him that it is impertinent for Job to think that God ought to provide him an explanation. It makes Job feel insignificant. Job eventually responds, saying,
How can I respond to you when I am unworthy? I covered my lips with my hand. I've spoken what I wanted to say twice, but I don't have an answer.
In the second round, instead of speaking about himself as the creator, God speaks about 2 of his creations, the Leviathan and the Behemoth, as if these incredible animals had the answers to all of life's major problems. Job is being reminded that he is incapable of comprehending the moral world, let alone God or the animal kingdom. God's basic argument is thus,
Why are you trying to argue with me?
Job answers that God knows everything and that there is no way to thwart his plans. He now knows that it was completely wrong for him to question God, and he repents in dust and ashes, detesting himself. Even though Job feels humiliated by his encounter with God, the root of his issue has been resolved because he has re-established contact with God. The interaction sets up the book's spectacular, if unexpected, climax. Job acknowledges that he cannot hold God responsible for his interactions with him. Because of Job's unwavering devotion to God, God returns to him his property, camel and sheep herds, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and a great deal of money. Job also experiences a great deal of happiness. He is justified as the servant of God. In contrast, Job's 3 pals receive harsh judgment from God. He claims that they have not discussed Job truthfully, which indicates that we shouldn't take their statements at face value. In modern life, we encounter various trials, be it personal loss, illness, or other forms of suffering. Job's example reminds us that maintaining faith during these times is crucial. It is in these moments of vulnerability and despair that our faith is most tested and consequently most vital. Faith provides the strength to endure, the courage to persevere, and the hope to look beyond present suffering to a future redemption. Moreover, Job's story underscores the importance of a personal relationship with God. This relationship is a cornerstone for believers, offering solace and guidance through the darkest times. Ultimately, the story of Job teaches us that faith in God is a source of profound strength. It is an enduring trust that, despite life's trials, God's love and wisdom remain steadfast. In embracing this faith, we find the resilience to face our challenges, the peace that transcends understanding, and the hope that sustains us through life's deepest valleys. Lucifer's plans for Job ultimately failed. If you'd like to see how Lucifer became a fallen angel, click the video on screen. Thank you for watching the video.